Chapter 1. May 1825. "I can't get around it any more," Lewis Cotter, the Earl of Pruett, said. "I have to get married, and I have to do it soon." The admission hit him hard. He'd done everything in his power to avoid it, but like so many other things working against him, it was inevitable. He had to find a wife, and he had to do it soon. With a heavy sigh, he turned from the large window in his friend's den so he could face the gentleman sitting in the chair by the fireplace. Mr. Stephen Barkman was sipping on brandy, and a silver mask covered his face from the tip of his nose on up to his forehead. It had been years since Lewis had seen his face. Lewis knew his friend had had his share of suffering. His friend's first marriage had been nothing short of a nightmare. Stephen's first wife, Eloise, had been so awful that she'd thrown a hand mirror at his face, which was why he had to wear a mask. Eloise had done many more things to make him miserable, but Lewis suspected that had been the worst of it. After that, Stephen had moved outside of London to live in this reclusive manner. Stephen had once been an outgoing gentleman. He'd enter a room, and before the evening was over, he'd have a group of people vying to talk to him. Lewis had envied him the ability to fit with them everywhere he went. People liked him. He had a way of making them laugh. And if there was one thing most people enjoyed doing, it was laughing. But that was all in the past. Stephen wasn't that gentleman any more. Now he was quiet and reserved. Had it not been for his second wife, Patricia, Lewis didn't know if Stephen would have ever come out of his shell. From time to time, Lewis saw a glimmer of the person Stephen used to be, but much of it had been subdued. Not that he didn't like who Stephen was now. He did. Stephen was still a good friend. He had come through for Lewis on numerous occasions. Stephen helped him out whenever he needed it. It was just that Lewis sometimes missed the optimistic nature Stephen used to possess. It had balanced out the gloom and doom Lewis had felt in his own life. And right now he needed someone to tell him that getting married wasn't going to be the end of the world. Lewis waited for his friend to speak the words he needed to hear, but Stephen didn't oblige him. Instead, he sipped more brandy, as if Lewis had just stopped by for a casual discussion. "Well?" Lewis finally prompted. "Well, what?" Stephen asked. "I just told you I have no other choice than to get married." "Yes, I heard." Lewis waited for his friend to say more, but he didn't. Groaning, Lewis went to the chair across from him and sat down so he could look Stephen straight in the eye. "Don't you have anything to say?" Stephen hesitated, then said, "Congratulations," in a way that let Lewis know Stephen had no idea what he wanted to hear. Lewis threw his head back and ran his fingers through his blonde hair. "You're supposed to tell me that marriage will be good for me, that I'll be very happy with a wife." "You know I can't tell you that," Stephen softly said. Lewis straightened back up. "But you love Patricia. I can see it whenever she's in the same room with you. She makes you happy." "Yes, she does. But I was fortunate you brought her to me. I didn't seek her out. I wasn't looking to get married again. I also wasn't looking to get married the first time, and Eloise was awful." He finished his brandy. "I can't promise you a lifetime of happiness. All I can do is wish you luck in finding the right lady." "You're not any help." "Is it really going to help if I lie to you?" Grumbling, Lewis got up from the chair and strode back to the window. He crossed his arms and focused on the covered bridge with trees surrounding it. The leaves on the trees had already bloomed. It was spring. Before long it would be summer. That didn't give him a lot of time to find a wife, and with Stephen's disappointing reaction to his news, he was more afraid now than he had been when he came here. What if he ended up with someone like Eloise? Or what if he ended up like some of the other gentlemen who wished they could ship their wives off to America so they wouldn't have to deal with them ever again? He had known Patricia would be good to Stephen when he brought her here to marry him. Since he'd had no desire to get married, and since he'd assumed his brother had lots of money, he hadn't even considered marrying her. Maybe he should have done it. No, that wouldn't have been a good option. Yes, she was a good friend, but she used to be his sister-in-law. Plus, he never once had a single romantic feeling for her. It would have been like marrying his sister. Not that he had one, but his imagination was good enough to let him know he would never want to marry his own sister.